All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's educational webinar series. We are very excited to have Mike Bane here with us this evening to talk about Canine Companions. Mike Bane is a recreational therapist on the spinal cord injury unit at Jefferson Moss-Magee Rehab in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. He received his Master's of Science in Recreational Therapy from Indiana University and began working at Moss in November of 2020. In January of 2022, he graduated from the Canine Companions Northeast Training Center with his facility dog, Kaya. Since then, Kaya and Mike have been providing canine-assisted therapy to the patients of Jefferson Moss-Magee Rehabilitation. We're very excited to have Mike here with us tonight. If during the webinar, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat. Mike is fine with answering your question in the moment, so I can read the question to him. If you feel that your question is a little bit, would be better discussed verbally, I can unmute you if you would like to have more of an open dialogue with Mike. There's also the option too of holding your questions towards the end, if it is maybe a little bit longer of a question, whatever your preference is. Also at the end, please be sure to look into the chat, as you will find a link to join United Spinal Association, the Greater Philadelphia chapter, if you are not already a member. You will also find a link to our YouTube page where you'll be able to watch this and all of our other monthly educational webinar series. All right, and I would like to take this time to formally introduce Mike Bane.
Hi, how are you guys? Thanks everyone for jumping on, and thank you, Megan, for having me. I appreciate it. It's really cool to get on here and talk about this kind of stuff. Canine Companions matters a lot to me. So like Megan said, my name is Mike. I work people that have had spinal cord injuries here at Moss. And I guess a little bit of a background before I, like how I got started with Canine Companions is I was probably here for about a year or so. And the rec therapist before me had a facility dog from Canine Companions. And, you know, from everything I was hearing, the whole first year I was here was, you know, how much that was missed and how much of an effect that had on people's therapies. And so I asked my team leader and the administration here if I could pursue that, and I received nothing but support from them. And I went through a whole process from there. So with that said, my goals for this are just to kind of let you guys know about what the application process is like, what the training process is like as far as the classwork goes, and all the follow-up support you'll get from Canine Companions after you graduate. For any healthcare professionals on here, I'll also talk about what I do with Kaya here, if this was something you were interested in doing later on. And also about the dogs, kind of their journey from, when they're born all the way up through when they're ready to graduate and come work with you. They have a pretty cool journey before they even get to working in the classroom with you guys. So, well, that's it. I'll start sharing my screen, if that's okay. And so the first thing I'm going to show real quick is just a really short video from Canine Companions. It's on their YouTube page. I think it's a really good way to visualize a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about. It shows a lot of different things dogs can perform for you. Their training, class period, the different things that I guess I don't want to bring up yet, but different things I'll be bringing up throughout the PowerPoint are kind of shown here for a little bit. So it's a good way to kind of get those images in your head and kind of picture what I'm talking about. I'm just going to play this really quick. If the volume doesn't work or anything, don't worry about it. There's only background music. It's just anything you need to read kind of pops up on the screen.
Mike, just so you're aware, the volume is not going through.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that was happening earlier when I was messing with this, but there's no dialogue, so it should be okay. So it's usually a video that I show to a lot of people here at Moss. Sometimes I'm doing education on service dogs and sorry, one second. Sorry about that. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but a whole bunch of other YouTube videos started playing. So I just a video I usually show to a lot of inpatients that we have here that are interested in adopting a service dog. It's just a good way to kind of visualize, like I said, some things that they do for you. But I'll talk a little bit about Canine Companions. What they are is they're a nonprofit organization. They provide expertly trained service dogs to adults, children, and veterans that have disabilities. They also adopt out facility dogs to healthcare professionals. Service and facility dogs have the same training, same certifications. It's just when they go to class and get paired with somebody, it just depends on whether they get paired with someone working in the healthcare field or someone that has a disability. And there's a lot of dogs now too that are working from Canine Companions in educational and criminal justice settings, which is really interesting. There's a lot of dogs that either work in like a courthouse or a police station and provide comfort to victims before they have to testify or or do anything that would be a little bit stressful. So it's kind of growing more too outside of the therapy world, which is really interesting. And then also for other types of dogs they do have hearing dogs and dogs for veterans that have PTSD. I'm not as familiar with those types of classes. They are separate from what I went through, but they are services that are available if that's something you were interested in, or if you knew someone that was interested in that. All right, so let me just move this. There we go. All right, so the difference between therapy dogs and service dogs is pretty important to differentiate, especially when it comes to the ADA and your rights. If you have one of these dogs. So therapy dogs are any pet or dog that has basic obedience training, and with permission, they can enter a public facility. Contrary to popular belief, emotional support dog does not have public access. So a lot of times you see them at shopping malls or restaurants or out in the public, which is great if based on the goodwill of the business. If they want to let you bring your dog in, that's awesome. But they don't legally have to grant you that privilege. And it also is contingent on the dog's behavior. If the dog isn't controlled at all, they can ask you to leave, and that goes for service dogs or therapy dogs. So facility and service dogs, they're specially bred for this type of work. Whereas other dogs for therapy can be any size, any breed. But service dogs really need to be bigger dogs, and most notably labs. And they pick labs because they have all the different characteristics you need for a good working dog. They have the size and the strength to do different tasks that you need them to do for you, like opening doors or retrieving items or helping you propel a manual wheelchair. But with that size and strength also comes, the fact that they're very motivated and willing to work for you. They want to please you. You can have dogs that can physically perform the task, but they're too stubborn to go through with it, and they wouldn't make good service dogs, which is true of chocolate labs. And so like from Canine Companions, you'll see yellow and black labs come out of their classes, but they don't adopt out chocolate labs because apparently they have a personality characteristic that makes them a little more stubborn and a little harder to work with. They don't want to work for you or please you as much. They can kind of give up during a task and lay down. And when you're relying on these dogs to be safe out in the community or at home, you kind of need them to work for you. So yellow and black labs and goldens, and a mix of of those three are usually what Canine Companions will breed. And facility dogs, so Kaya, we only have public access if we are taking a patient somewhere with us on like a community outing, for example. I was helping someone kind of explore the idea of whether they wanted to adopt a service dog or not. So we took her to the mall with Kaya, and Kaya was able to do different things for her while she was there, and she can kind of get a good idea of how the dog could help her increase her independence after she was discharged. But if I don't have a patient with me, I can't bring Kaya places that you would be able to bring a service dog to if the service dog was working for you. Don't know why. There we go. So the dogs themselves, they are bred by Canine Companions. There's no rescue dogs that come through this program. It's probably one of the more common questions that I get asked. If I adopted Kaya and just kind of brought her there, or where can people bring their dogs to do this kind of thing? Where Canine Companions has their own breeding program. They breed all the dogs, and they don't accept rescues, mainly because they want to ensure from birth to training that these dogs were properly trained and are going to keep you safe when you're using them. So their timeline is, they're born with their breeder caretaker, and they're there until they're about 8 weeks old. From 8 weeks on, they briefly go back to the local chapter of Canine Companions, which the nearest one here is in Long Island, New York, before they go meet their volunteer puppy raiser. Canine Companions is really dependent on people volunteering to raise these dogs when they're puppies before they're old enough to start their professional training. So they're with their puppy raisers for about a year. And other than giving them love and good socialization, the only thing they're really required to do is bring them some basic obedience training classes and that kind of thing. And honestly, I'm way too selfish to ever do this. Like, as much as I love Canine Companions and I love what they do, I have so much respect for it, and I see every day, the difference that these dogs make. If I had to have one of these dogs for a year and then give him or her up, it would be heartbreaking to me. And I know it's for such an excellent cause, but again, I guess I'm too selfish to do that. That would be really hard for me. So I have so much, respect and admiration for the volunteer puppy raisers that do this and make all this possible. They really do some awesome work, and I really appreciate it. So they're there with the puppy raisers for about a year. Then they move back to their regional training center, which again, so for Kaya would be Long Island and New York, and she's there for up to 9 months. And then that 9-month period is where she does her professional training. They teach her to do a lot of different tasks that we'll talk about for you, but inevitably that ends with meeting you. People that apply to their program. They meet you for their 2-week training class there, which I'll also kind of talk about in detail. And then you graduate together from there and kind of start your journey as a treatment team. So, and these dogs are nationally accredited by Assistance Dogs International. So the kind of difference between therapy dogs and service dogs is there's no national accreditation for therapy dogs, where service dogs and facility dogs go through national accreditation. There's some pretty strict standards for them. All right, so the application process itself. So to get it started, if you go to their website, there's just an online application. It's pretty short. It's kind of name, address, that type of stuff, and briefly what you want the dog to do for you. Different tasks that you envision the dog performing for you. The only thing that is good to mention, which comes up for me working with inpatients a lot, is you need to be at least a year removed from your injury. Canine Companions' idea is that once you're a year out, you kind of have a better understanding of your needs and different ways a dog can help you, and you're kind of more in a routine. It's easier to bring a dog into that, and the training the dog to do things you're going to need a dog to do for a long time. So after that online application, if they approve, it's kind of like an initial screening. So if they approve you from there, you'll get a much larger paper application packet. I think mine was like 30 to 40 pages long. A lot of information. I had to send pictures of my house and my backyard and where the dog would be staying. I had to send pictures of work, where she would be working. And then it's a lot more of different, more in depth of different tasks you want the dog to do for you, different personality traits you want to have in a dog, whether you want high energy, low energy, even up down to a dog that likes to lick or not. There's all sorts of questions that they ask to kind of really get a good idea of if you come to training, what dog to pair you up with. From there is a phone interview, which is really just going over the application packet. And then the in-person interview, which I think at this point, if you make it to the in-person interview, they have a good idea of whether you're appropriate for the program or not. So that's not, in my opinion, that wasn't so much of an issue. It was more than being able to see that you're comfortable working with different dogs. So they have you work with a couple of their dogs that they have in the kennel, not only giving commands but also giving corrections if it's needed. You know, a lot of people don't want to physically correct a dog. And there are safe, humane ways to do that. So I got to make sure you're comfortable with all of that, because a lot of that is involved in the training process, and you have to be able to do that as a dog handler. So that's, I think, more what the in-person interview was for. And then from there, you go on to the wait list, which is all over the place. They say it can take up to a year. Some people I've talked to found out 6 weeks after they applied that they would be going to a class, and some people it took almost the whole year. So it really is kind of no telling. If you're interested in applying now, from what I've heard from other people, is there is kind of a brief hold on new applications, and I think it's just a puppy raiser issue. You know, you're always looking for more volunteer puppy raisers, and they get more dogs, you know, certified and trained to be able to pair you with them. That's my guess. I'm not sure what the reason is for the hold, but last I heard they had a hold on there. But nothing will stop you from applying and at least getting on the list to start the application process. So then from there, you go to your 2-week team training. So when you get to team training, it's pretty cool. So it's kind of like a college dorm, almost is what it really reminded me of, except that the dorm rooms, instead of being like a closet you're sharing with another person, they're really spacious. They have a fully accessible bathroom and shower. There's 2 beds in there, I think, but like the living room area is really big. You get a desk and a TV. And they give you lunch every day, which is really cool. They're actually relying on donations for that. So a lot of past recipients of service and facility dogs kind of donate to the new classes, and they provide lunch for them every day. Cost-wise, the dog is free. Room and board is free. The lunch is free. The only thing you're really, financially responsible for is breakfast and dinner, and then they give you plenty of, pantry space and fridge space. You can go shopping and, put a bunch of things in there. So it's really very inexpensive 2 weeks. So during team training, so the first day or two, they'll have you work with a bunch of different dogs. So another question I get a lot is, can I pick the dog? Some people want to pick a black lab or a yellow lab or a male or a female. You don't pick the dog. You rotate through different dogs that the training staff feels is most appropriate for you. And the reason I put on there the trusted trainers is because these trainers have been working with these dogs for up to 9 months, and they have a really good read on their personality and how they are when they're comfortable. So for anyone that's had a pet, you get a dog and they're one way for 2 weeks, and then after that they get comfortable, they're a whole different type of dog. So they really ask you to trust them in terms of giving you the dog with the characteristics that you're looking for and can perform the job that you're looking for them to do for you. I got paired. I was working with Kaya during this period, and I ended up getting paired with her, which is awesome. But there was people that got paired with dogs that they didn't even work with during the rotation period. So there really is no telling on who you're going to get. And they have a really cute pairing ceremony where they kind of announce your name first, and you go up to the front of the room, and then they bring your dog to you and tell you who you got, and you get one at a time. And it was a really cool process. You're not really supposed to tell people who you get paired with right away, because it is kind of a trial period. They ask you not to put anything on social media or to tell too many people, because if the relationship doesn't work out between you and that dog, you might have to switch. But I might have texted everyone I worked with and told them that I got Kaya because she was my top choice and that's who I wanted. But you're not really supposed to do that. So one thing that the classroom stuff will focus on is skill development. So one of the first things they try to do is really start to build a bond between you and your dog. So the dog is going to be very, very fixated on whoever their trainer was for the past 9 months. And more likely than not, that trainer is going to be involved in the training class. So you might be standing next to the dog and they're sitting at your feet, but they're looking over at their trainer, because to them that's their handler, that's their master. So they do try to, one of the first things they do is to try to put that put that focus onto you, which takes a little while, and it takes time beyond team training. It's not anything that you're going to be able to do in the first couple of days when you're there, but they do some different things. Like, I know for Kaya, every time she made direct eye contact with me, I gave her a treat. So we would stand there for like 5 minutes, and there would be people walking in and out of the room. Her old trainer would walk in and out of the room, and I would just stare at Kaya's face. And every time she looked up and locked eyes at me, I gave her a treat. And there's more, there's more things like that they can build off of. But that's one of the first ways that they start kind of building that focus on with you. Eventually, they start sleeping in the dorm with you, which is really nice, and it's a good way to kind of build some trust. But eventually, that will shift from the trainer to you. There's a lot of classroom and practical activities that you do. So when you're on campus, the classroom stuff is usually in the morning, which is really just teaching you about dogs, not necessarily service dogs, but just how dogs behave, how their brains work, how you can best train them, different behaviors to kind of recognize, because you always want your dog to be relaxed and comfortable, whether it's just you or public settings. So it's a lot about just learning about dogs as an animal. And then there's the practical activities where they walk you through their 40 plus commands. You try a couple out each day, so that you eventually go through all 40 of them throughout the 2 weeks. And then my favorite part was outings. So we would try different things on campus first, and then we put the dogs in the car and we go somewhere. We didn't go to any restaurants because it was kind of like the height of COVID when I was there, which was a shame. But we went to the library, went to like Home Depot, PetSmart, different places out in public, and practice controlling the dog and having them, do different things for us that we might need them to do once we graduate. Another thing that they stress is to be ready to have certain parts of your personality show. So when you're in class, mine was only 5 or 6 people. It wasn't a ton, but then you add in all the trainers and some caregivers and staff members, and you're in a room full of a lot of people. And me myself, I'm very introverted. I'm very shy. Talking isn't really my thing. I do on purpose. So it is kind of uncomfortable and embarrassing sometimes to get up there and to like be firm and issue a correction, or to be loud, or just socially it could be kind of awkward. So you have to kind of embrace that, and kind of put aside any fears of looking foolish. The biggest foolish example I have from being a facility dog handler is sometimes with Kaya, we tug on ropes to help challenge people's standing or sitting balance. Kaya is very, very gentle, and very at baseline is very lazy, and she doesn't like to overpower anybody. So when I need her to tug harder to provide more of a challenge, I have to growl at her, and that's the only way that she gets a little more playful and starts pulling harder on the rope. So I can be in the middle of the gym sometimes. There's other patients and therapists and all sorts of stuff going on, and I'm growling at the dog in the middle of the gym. But it's what you have to do sometimes to get the action that you want to have happen. So sometimes you kind of have to be prepared for that kind of thing. And they teach you to like how to learn how to be a leader in the eyes of your dog, because dogs are pack animals. You have to be a pack leader. There's certain ways to run training sessions. Just standing up straight, speaking firmly. If you bend down and start telling the dog something, they're not going to listen to you. If you're too soft-spoken, they're not going to listen to you. And you should keep training sessions at 5 to 10 minutes or so, and always end with something successful. Focus on one new task at a time when you're teaching them. So, but that's the kind of things that they'll go over with you as far as leadership goes. Just behaving in a way that a dog is going to respect, more or less. And at the end of every day, they had regular meetings where you would debrief with your trainer. So there's a couple trainers that work in a class, and then each trainer has a couple people in the program. So I met every day with my trainer. We talked about what went well, what didn't. Different things you would want me to focus on, or things you noticed about Kaya interacting with me. that was a really cool part of my day too, just talking about, things that I wanted to talk about kayaks. A lot of it's very group focused, but that was a cool way to kind of end the day with getting some one-on-one information. All right, so to some of the cool stuff. So what can these dogs do? So the biggest goal, obviously, is to have them increase your independence by reducing the need for a caregiver, whether you're at home or in the community. They can retrieve dropped items. So if you drop your phone, wallet, keys, not safe for you to bend down on the floor, they'll pick them up and hand them back to you. That includes their leash. If you drop their leash while you're walking them, they'll just pick it up and give it back to you. They'll help you purchase items. I've had Kaya on community outings at the mall with patients that weren't able to hand their credit card to the cashier. Kaya will take that, jump up on the counter, hand the credit card, wait for the transaction to go through, take the credit card back, jump down, and then give it back to you. They can open and close doors and drawers. As you saw in the video, they can push elevator and automatic door buttons, turn lights on and off. If you get tired out in the community, they can help pull a manual wheelchair, good way to save your arms a little bit. So there's other things, a lot of things that they can do for you, but most importantly is that of their basic 40 commands, you can always build off of that. So, one of the biggest things that your trainer will work on with you is commands that meet your specific needs. So for me, I wanted Kaya to play cards because playing cards as a recreation therapist, that's something that I do a lot for, like social goals or cognitive goals or to meet physical goals, fine motor skills, different things. So cards are good for everything. So I wanted Kaya to be able to interact with patients in a card game. So we taught her how to play cards. I set her up with a card holder. She can only do like one-step, games like pity pat or Uno. It's not like she's playing poker. But like we can do one-step card games where I set her up the card holder. I point to a card, she picks it out, puts it on the table, and we can kind of play cards from there. And she's actually really good. She wins a lot more often than she loses. All right, so some more about the right to access, because this is I got a little cheat sheet right here. This is a big one. So a lot of people kind of assume what they can and can't do, or they're just not sure. And if you're going to have one of these dogs, it's really important to know where you can take them. So under the ADA, business and employers are required to provide reasonable accommodation for you and your companion. You get pretty much the most rights at like your apartment or home or your workplace. That being said, there are some limits if it poses an undue hardship. So my biggest example for this is the zoo. So if you have ever been to Philadelphia Zoo, it's huge. If you're going there alone and your dog is there to help you be more independent, not need a caregiver there with you, they can definitely perform things for you at the zoo. They can pull your chair for you, open close doors for you, different things that that we already talked about. But even though they're in the main area of the zoo, which isn't causing any problems, if you bring them into certain enclosures or certain areas of the zoo, it could really bother the other animals. And that would be an undue hardship. So you wouldn't be able to bring, your service animal into certain places in the zoo. My other really good example for this are concerts. So you can bring them to a concert venue. There's no area at a concert venue that I would think would be restricted, but it's just not, if you have a dog, they're very sensitive to hearing. It's going to be really loud, a lot of music. It's not the best thing for you as a handler to do for your dog. So there are, other things to consider. Amusement parks too. They can bring you to an amusement park. You can't take a dog on a ride safely. So they're all things to consider when you're thinking about whether you should bring your dog somewhere or not. As far as apartments go, what's good to know is that there's no rules as far as weight and breed, and as if you had, like a pet dog. The rules for that doesn't apply to them. You can bring in a yellow lab, regardless of what the rules are there. They can't charge you any additional fees for having a service dog. Same thing for Uber. Ubers have to take your service dog. Car rental agencies and hotels have to accept it, and they can't charge you any fees. But if you leave more of a mess than you normally would, then they can charge you a cleaning fee. So they can't charge you anything offhand, but they can charge you something on the back end if you leave a mess in the hotel. So there's and private vacation homes is one thing I want to mention too. So if you go to Airbnb and rent a private vacation home, they are not legally required for you to have your service dog there. I mean, if they tell you it's great, that's awesome, but they can tell you no, and they're legally not forced to permit you to have the service dog with you at a private vacation residence. All right, so graduation support. So once you go through the 2 weeks, every region has a graduation department that provides ongoing support to any of the working teams that are out there. A lot of it's really cool just for like a networking purpose. One thing that I found pretty helpful, which I haven't taken advantage of it yet, but I think it's really cool, is all the people in your area that are either puppy raisers or have adopted a service or facility dog. You kind of go on a list, and they can watch your dog for you if you go on a vacation or you go somewhere where it's not appropriate to bring them. And not that a lot of us, I'm sure we all have family and friends that would love to have a dog, for a week and spoil them and that kind of stuff. And if that's what you're most comfortable with, then absolutely do that. Canine Companions doesn't frown upon that at all. But if it's important to you as a handler to kind of make sure their training is maintained, and you want someone familiar with, the things that they can and can't do, it's good to kind of go through that, because you have someone you can trust and is already affiliated with Canine Companions and knows how these dogs should be treated and trained every day. When I went on vacation, I left my dog with my brother, and I can only imagine how many things Kaya ate that she should not have eaten because she's on a strict diet plan. So if that's and that's something that's okay with me. Every dog, like every person, deserves a week break from their strict schedule. So she got some extra snacks, and that's all right. But if that's something you really wanted to avoid, it's a cool service you can look into. But also just for just peer support and social networking type of stuff. You can meet other dogs and their owners, have the dogs play, get to know different people in the community. It's always a good way to network a little bit. In addition to that, they do a lot of webinars, just like this. A lot of different different things about. Mostly they're about training. Different problems that come up with training, or new things you can train. Or in-person workshops, or if you're having difficulty training something new that you want the dog to start doing to help you out. They have webinar workshops that everyone kind of brings up their task that they want the dog to start performing, and everyone kind of talks about the best way to train that. A lot of them are really, really interesting. So one big thing is each dog gets an ID tag, which is always on their collar. It has to stay on their collar, and they're microchipped in case the dog's ever lost. So if a vet scans your dog, they're going to call Canine Companions first, because that's who's going to be on their microchip. And a lot of people get scared reporting the Canine Companions. They think, if they're not taking good care of the dog, it's going to get taken away, which they can do if there's, an abuse or neglect situation, obviously. But, people think if I lost my dog, they're going to think I'm a terrible person and they're taking my service dog away. So they don't call. It would not bother Canine Companions at all if you called and said, my dog's lost. They understand things happen. They understand dogs are dogs. As well trained as they are, and they really are very well trained, they can still see a squirrel and take off when they're not on the leash. So always call them first and let them know my dog's lost, I'm looking for them, and then you follow up, with your local police department or Facebook groups, or in your community, or whatever you would normally do. But call them first, because if they get a call from a vet before they get a call from you, that's the kind of thing that they would have a problem with. Recertification is something that's really cool. So they do something local to you. So you don't have to go all the way out to Long Island, New York, where the chapter is for this. So after you graduate, about 3 to 6 months after that date, you meet for recertification, where you take like a practical test. They'll meet you at the mall or shopping center, and they kind of have you control the dog and have the dog do different tasks for you while you're out in the community. All the same stuff you'll do for 2 straight weeks. It's going to be nothing new or a surprise to you. But they do that to make sure a dog is up to date with their training, and they're not starting to have any behavioral problems now that they've been home with you for a couple of months. They want to make sure you're kind of doing a good job keeping them behaving the way they're supposed to be behaving. They do a lot of access rights education. So if your apartment complex or your workplace starts giving you problems, you can reach out to them, and Canine Companions will contact them and let them know all about the ADA and different things that you're entitled to as a service dog handler. And then financially, they do offer non-routine vet reimbursement. So I know vet checkups themselves are just absolutely outrageous, but they won't help with anything like that. But there is a non-routine emergency that comes up, that's really a financial hardship for you, but it's something that for the safety of the dog really has to happen. They can give you different funding or money for that to help support you and the dog there. So in addition to all that stuff, you can email or call them at any time with any question, and they'll call you or meet with you or answer whatever questions you have. So it's a really great ongoing support program, and you're also kind of tied in with them up until the dog retires. Typically, they retire around 8 to 10 years old. When they retire, you don't have to worry about being connected with canine companions anymore. They're not going to check up on them anymore. The dog will stay at home with you and not work anymore. If having a service dog is something you wanted to continue, they do love their successors. They would very happily take anybody back for a second, third, or whatever dog. So they love having people return to the program. So once your dog retires, you can always pursue that as well. So with all that said, this is my dog. This is Kaya. She's a 4-year-old yellow lab. She is incredibly calm, sometimes almost too calm. And I've heard other facility dog handlers say this. She would make a terrible service dog. So these dogs, they all go through the same training. So Kaya could have very easily gotten paired with a person that had a disability instead of getting paired with me. So like up until the classroom and the rotations and pairing, she could have gone either direction. So it's all the same training and certifications, but they try to put the dogs where they best fit. And Kaya is a fantastic facility dog, but she would be terrible being a service dog. And I mean that as a compliment to her, because she's just so social. She loves people, meeting new people every day. For some dogs, meeting new people is a lot and it's very stressful. And they can only meet a certain number of new people every day before they start getting overworked and they need a nap. Kaya can meet new people for 8 straight hours. She loves it. She loves comforting people. She loves getting pet. She loves attention. So she's perfect for this role. She also has an Instagram if anyone's interested. It's called Keep Up with Kaya. I don't post on there too much. I do more stories sometimes than actual picture posts. There's not a bunch of pictures on there. But I do put sometimes stuff up on just things she's doing throughout the day with patients or on her own being lazy. So how she kind of helps and gets involved. So we work with all disciplines and programs here at Moss. So spinal cord injury, brain injury, people with amputations, strokes. We work with all the programs and then all the therapists within that program. So PT, OT, speech, neuropsychology, social work, whatever is appropriate and wherever Kaya can help. So it's all based on referral. So I just get emailed a lot throughout the week. She treats about 2 hours a day. So of my 8-hour day, I spend 6 hours of that being a recreation therapist, like I normally would. And then 2 hours out of that 8, I involve Kaya in training sessions or treatment sessions. So they can be a half hour each, and I can do 4 of them. They could be an hour each, and I can only do 2, or some combination. But she works about 2 hours throughout the day. I typically try to do 1 hour in the afternoon, 1 hour in the morning, just to break her day up a little bit. But they do need a lot of rest when they do this kind of work. It's not only physically demanding, but they absorb a lot of emotions. So obviously, as an inpatient, if you have a new injury or new diagnosis, you're stressed, you're frustrated, you're upset, and obviously the dog makes you feel so much better, which is awesome. But they feel all that emotion, so they need to nap that off sometimes, whether it's the emotion or just a physical task that they're doing in a therapy session. So all of our interventions are goal directed. We do have, whether I'm doing something one-on-one or I'm working with another therapist, there are physical, cognitive, or social goals in mind. It's not just emotional support, which is a little bit different. I know there's a lot of emotional support dogs that come visit at the hospital and do different visitation things that they can sign up for, which is awesome. But that's not what Kaya does. So different goals and things that we work on. So physical goals we work on are ambulation, which we can do indoor, outdoor. We can do good leash training. So Kaya is trained when you walk to stay right at your hips. So whether you're walking slowly or quickly, or you're stopping and starting, or walking steady, she'll stop and start with you, speed up and slow down with you. She'll stay right with you the whole time. But if you do want to do something a little more challenging, either just to challenge someone's walking balance, or if they're getting ready to go home and they have a dog at home that pulls on the leash, we do some naughty leash walking is what I call it, and I just kind of run in front of her with a treat in my hand, and she'll pull somebody. That's the only way that I can have her pull someone that doesn't mess up her training. So we do different types of walking like that. Fine and gross motor skills. So she plays a lot of card games. She plays different sporting activities or art. Standing and sitting balance, functional reaching, all sorts of stuff. Anything you do with a dog, you can incorporate physical goals into. From a cognitive standpoint, I do a lot of mock training sessions, which is cool. I do this a lot with speech therapy, where we'll sequence tasks as part of like a training session. We'll work on their attention and their memory when they're kind of recalling a lot of that stuff. And it's just basically stuff that I do to keep Kaya sharp with all of her commands. I just kind of have a patient do that for me, and they get therapy, and Kaya gets to brush up on a lot of different things that I need her to brush up on, and it's a win-win. Emotionally, obviously, no matter what other goals you're working on, emotionally, you're going to be able to help you. But this is also something too I focus on with neuropsych if we're doing a co-treat, just to help people decrease the stress and anxiety, improve mood, improve motivation to engage in any therapy session. There's people that refuse therapy, and then they see Kaya and they're like, all right, I'll get up out of bed, and they get up and they come to therapy. So it's just a really good way to get people to engage and maybe get involved in an activity for a little bit longer than they normally would for asking for a rest break. So so a lot of different ways we can use Kaya. And then one of my favorite is all the different social groups that we do with Kaya. So there's a weekly one that we do every Tuesday. We go up to the brain injury unit, and we have a social group up there. Today we had one where basically we got a bunch of people together and worked on their standing balance. We put Kaya up on a table, and we just had a competition to see who could get the most fur off of her with her brush, which is great for me because it doesn't end up in my car or in my house. But for the patients, obviously they're working on some of their physical goals, but it really facilitates a lot of conversation and laughing and having fun, and it's a big part of why I do what I do. It's trying to make people happy in a crappy situation. So different interventions we already kind of talked about. So physically, where's walking, we do fetch, ring toss, challenging hugs, which I have a couple of pictures of coming up. Cognitive standpoint, cards and tabletop activities, mock training sessions, which I already mentioned. Just a bunch of different things that we can do together. I'm always trying to think of something new, but it doesn't have to be something crazy and creative. Sometimes a dog just being there and getting involved in any sort of activity just makes something better. So this is an example of some pictures of Kaya. So this is when we were training beating. This is actually at the training center, where we were working on different ways I could practice fine motor skills with patients. And beating was one where Kaya will hold the end of the rope, and I'll have someone just beat on the other end, and she'll hold it for you, which is obviously something you can work on without a dog. You don't need a dog to do that, but it's canine assisted just to make it awesome. This guy playing cards, as I mentioned. So started working on stretching. Patient was having a little bit of a hard time getting his hips all the way down to get a deeper stretch. So body weight wise, Kaya jumps up on there and she stares at me like that while I intermittently give her treats so that she stays there. And then this is one I have permission to use these pictures, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, written permission. This is a guy working on sitting balance, just having a patient sit on the edge of the mat and have her pull on a rope. Is one of the times I had to growl at her. If anyone's wondering, it's super embarrassing, but you gotta do what you gotta do. This is my favorite one. It's called Smother. So when you're teaching her new things, you can't teach things that rhyme. So hug would sound too much like tug. So I had to think of a different word. So I used smother. And this is a really good way that we work on sitting balance, where she'll kind of jump up and put all of her body weight on your shoulder, either coming from the front or the side or the back, whatever, wherever you're working on. And you kind of just have to support her body weight while you're sitting up. And then I keep my hand there with treats in it. That's the only way to get her to stay. Otherwise, she'll jump down pretty quick. So I kind of tease her with the treat for a little bit. And then I, give her one every 10 to 15 seconds or so. So that said, I'll stop sharing my screen. And then if anybody has any questions,